Hi, this is John Doe with the DNB Academy, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make an acoustic snare using Superior Drummer 3 and Serum. Alright, for this one I already loaded in an instance of Superior Drummer, which is my favorite drum software, where you can do a lot of different things for different genres, for different purposes, so I really love it. And then what we're going to do is create a group and merge two layers, one of Superior Drummer and the other one consists of an instance of Serum with a transient. And we're gonna try to merge both layers to create a really good and really nice sounding acoustic snare. So for the first step you need to take is to create a group. You can do this in any other DAW. It's just a simple way of creating one sound, one final sound out of a mix of different plugins stacked in together, So in Ableton, we just press Ctrl G and it creates a instrument rack. And in this instrument rack, we're gonna add another chain, which is gonna be Serum. And this one, I'm gonna call it acoustic layer. And this one's gonna be transient. All right, so let's start off with our transient from Serum. It's just really simple thing to do, because it's all about tweaking a sine wave. That's what we want. So for this occasion, we're gonna go with the analog and basic shapes. We're gonna select our sine wave. Then we're gonna turn the random phase button all the way down. And on our phase, we're going to type in 90 because that's the best spot, as you can see here on the phase section on the wavetable. This is the spot where we get the most clicks out of it. We get the most sharp part of our sine wave. And also don't forget to put your attack all the way down to 0.0 milliseconds, so we don't have any sort of fade-ins on our sound. And then the other settings are pretty much as they are. We don't need to tweak them. We just need to use now 2 or 3 envelopes, one of them for the volume, the other one for the pitch, and the third one also for the pitch if you want to add an extra click to it. So I'm going to show you how to do it. We're just going to use these LFOs as envelopes. And for this one, I'm going to do this wave, this sort of shape for the volume of our snare. We're going to tweak it later. Let's just place this on volume and then tweak it all the way up. And as you can hear, we start to have like the body of a snare. We can make it a bit shorter. We can make this longer. It's really up to your taste. But it still feels a bit dull. That's because we don't have any automation on our pitch. Now let's add a second envelope here. And for this one, we're gonna make like a really small ramp like this. Usually it works. And we're gonna drag this into our course. And we're gonna press Alt and Shift, then left mouse button, so we can have this as polar. You can check this on your matrix here. So LFO2 being assigned to a coarse pitch. And here you have your types. This is pretty much what I did. You just make this polar instead of bipolar, not bipolar. It's like polar, bipolar or unipolar, as you can read there. So this is it. And now you can start to feel like your snare is getting a bit more action and a bit more feeling to it. So we're just gonna leave it like this. We're gonna turn the volume a little bit on this way here. Let's just make this a little bit smaller. We can actually, if this click annoys you, you can go back to the 0.5 milliseconds and it goes away. But it really depends on how strong you want you want your transient to be. So now that we laid down this foundation, I'm just gonna write down a MIDI clip here, Control-Shift-M, and we have our MIDI clip, and we're gonna play something like a D sharp and make this our loop here. So as you can notice here, now we're triggering a note, but as you can see, Superior Drummer has a lot of different pieces on their kits. So each piece corresponds to a different note on your keyboard. So the easiest way for you to play all these instruments at the same time, when I say all instruments, I mean Serum and Superior Drummer, you'll need to find the right note for the snare. So every time you hit a note on your Serum, you will automatically trigger the snare. And for that reason, we're going to use Ableton's pitch, which you can use your DAW's own plugin, because I'm sure, and some of the other ones I use, they also have this function. So I'm going to put the pitch before Superior Drummer so we can select the note that will correspond to the snare. So for that occasion, I'm going to play this, and as you can see, we are playing the D sharp, and the D sharp represents this hi-hat. So what we're gonna do now is just pretty much go down on our arrow here until we find the right note for our snare. You can see the animation there on each individual element, and now we reach our snare. But I don't really want the snare, I want the rim shot. So let's look for it, and we've got this rim shot here. Now let's remove the mute, and now we can hear our rim shot from Superior Drummer. Obviously the sound is a bit weak, we need to tweak it. So I'm going to show you what we can do on Superior Drummer without full knowledge of the plugin. So we've got your kit here, we're going to press the right button here to select our snare. This is the sound that we're tweaking, and these are the parameters that we should pay attention to. Let's start off by hit variation. We don't really want this to be turned on because we want the sound to be precise and exact every single time it's triggered. So let's turn this off. Voice and layer doesn't matter. MIDI and monitor doesn't matter, as well as MIDI mapping. These settings are really important if you want to use Superior Drummer as a software to be triggered with your digital drum kit, you know? And that's what I do a lot with mine. So yeah, soft hit level, it doesn't matter for this occasion as well, but we can leave it on. What we really need to turn on is the envelope and offset, because this is the part where we can control the amount of transient and the harshness of our transient, as well as our release and sustain. So what we're gonna do for now, we're just gonna boost the volume all the way up, and I'm gonna use Ableton's utility plugin so we can boost the volume of this layer. As you can hear, we're already getting a really cool sounding snare. But if you want to merge this with your transient, you don't necessarily need to do this, because you can merge them like two transients on top of each other as long as they fit. This goes a bit against the rules, but it works specifically in this case. So what we're gonna do is just start to get our transient on the mix and see how they work together. Now we are listening to acoustic layer and the transient layer from our Serum, which we can actually give this a bit of extra semitones here to make it a bit higher. This way it connects better with that. But we go to the tuning in a bit. Now we got our snare. Sounds pretty cool. And we can actually make it a bit shorter. See, instead of having that big room behind. But we're gonna take care of that on the mixer section in a bit. Now that we worked around our envelope, the next step would be tuning. And usually these snares we obviously gonna browse through different sounds. They need a lot of tuning. They are quite low in the mix, and if you start pitching them up, which is one of the most classic techniques when it comes to drum and bass production, which is using old school samples and old school break sounds and pitch them up to get like tighter sounds out of them. So that's what we're gonna do, just like tuning our snare. And then we're gonna browse through different ones we got here. These are the default packs from Superior Drummer that come in with the plugin. Got this really cool one. This is more of a really classic rim shot. This is also a really tight one. Just randomly going through these until we find something we like. All right, this sounds good. Now we need to, now that we found our sound when it comes to the character of the snare, we got to go back to the transient, and now we're gonna make it, and we're gonna adjust it so it fits better with the original sound. So it's shorter. We need to make the sound shorter. We can have this pitch envelope needs to be way shorter as well, and maybe getting a couple semitones up, something like this. All right, we're getting there. Now, pretty much, there are pretty much two other things we need to do. We need to go back to our Superior Drummer, and since I've already showed you what, like, the basics of what you can do with each individual kit sound, now we need to go to our mixer here, and on this mixer, when we play the sound, we can immediately see that the sound is coming through this channel, which is the snare top and the snare bottom, and then we got our overhead microphones that, and as you can hear, if you boost them, you get way more room than we are getting right now. Really depends on your direction, so it just comes down to mixing. In this case, I think we want the tops to come out, as long as some of the bottom. Okay, that's cool. And now we need two last steps, which actually count as one, which is compressing. So I'm gonna use a glue compressor from Ableton. This is like a really standard compressor. I'm gonna put it outside the chain, and then I'm gonna use an EQ. And for the EQ should come before the compressor, because the compressor is gonna clip the sound. So let's minimize our instrument rack. And as you can hear and see, there are a lot of lower frequencies on our snare, so we need to cut these out. We just need this. Right. Now let's turn on the soft clipping here. As you can see, our snare is now there. And now some basic compression, like a slower attack with a fast release, 10-2. Then we're gonna play with a 4 ratio. We can actually go to 2, but I'll remain at 4 so we can have like a harder compression. Now let's just tweak our threshold until we find the sweet spot, which usually is around 5 here on the gain reduction section. Now that we found it, we're just gonna make up what we compressed until we find the desirable volume. Awesome. Now we have our snare, which I'm just gonna freeze and resample for you guys. Here it is. Now let's just create an audio track and drag this one down here so we can have it in audio. And here is our snare. Let's check the wave shape. Looks decent. I need a bit of work around this area, but it does sound good. Not much phasing issues going on. So what we're gonna do is just like make it a bit shorter. Let's see, like, let's go with the transients options here and make it like smaller. You can even like pitch it up a little bit more if you want, like, or lower to make like a trappy snare. But I wouldn't go more than this. This is a pretty cool snare if you apply some reverb to it. So yep, there we go. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you take some advantages out of Superior Drummer and Serum, and pretty much mixing two different techniques together to achieve one goal, which is making good snares. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.